Nina, I need to inform you that you're no longer invited to tomorrow's wedding. Nina Alois Anderson stopped turning the page of the operations binder on her desk. Outside the upstairs office window, employees crossed the manicured lawn of Anderson House estate carrying white chairs toward the ceremony garden. Florists were arranging arches. Lighting crews were testing cables. In less than 24 hours, Nina's older sister Vanessa would be married there. Nina pressed the phone closer. I'm sorry, is there a problem with the seating? Wedding planner Claire Morgan gave a small, impatient sigh. No, your family specifically asked that you not attend. Family's orders. For several seconds, Nina said nothing. Claire continued, your name is being removed from the guest list. Security will be informed, so please don't come tomorrow and create a scene. Nina's eyes shifted toward the open binder. Across one internal approval sheet was her own signature. Vanessa approved this. Yes, Vanessa, your mother and your father all agreed. Tomorrow needs to remain about the bride. Nina leaned back slowly. I understand. Claire's tone softened with unmistakable satisfaction. Thank you for being mature about this. Then she hung up. Nina remained still, staring through the glass at the estate her family apparently believed she had no right to enter. Then she reached for the desk phone. Daniel. The estate's general manager answered immediately. Yes, Ms. Anderson. Apparently, I'm no longer a wedding guest tomorrow. Silence. Nina continued, calm and precise. Make sure nobody changes a single operational detail until we review the account. I'll come upstairs. Nina ended the call and returned to the binder. She didn't cancel the ceremony. She didn't call security. She didn't touch Vanessa's contract. 20 minutes later, her cell phone rang again. Claire. Nina answered. This time, the planner's polished confidence was gone. Ms. Anderson, Claire sounded breathless. We didn't know. Nina glanced toward the ceremony lawn. Didn't know what? A pause. We didn't know you own the entire venue. Nina's gaze settled on the workers preparing her property for the sister who had just banned her from attending. And one question became impossible to ignore. How had her own family booked Nina's estate, benefited from concessions they didn't understand, and still decided that she was the one person who didn't belong there? Vanessa called less than 10 minutes after Claire's second call. Nina looked at her sister's name on the screen before answering. What happened? Vanessa asked immediately. Claire just called me sounding completely panicked. Nina closed the operations binder. You told her to remove me from the wedding. That's not what I asked. You told her I wasn't welcome. Vanessa went quiet. For years, Nina had listened to her family describe her career as if it were some temporary office job they didn't quite understand. She worked in commercial property. They knew that much. But Nina rarely explained deals, ownership structures, or acquisitions because every achievement somehow became a comparison Vanessa didn't want. So Nina stopped explaining. When Vanessa became engaged to Ethan Cole, she had toured Anderson House estate and fallen in love with it immediately. Then she saw the price. This place is ridiculous, Vanessa had complained months earlier. Beautiful, but completely out of our budget. 2 days later, Nina had quietly called Daniel. Give them the family rate, she told him, and price the optional amenities at cost. Vanessa never knew. She later bragged that Claire had negotiated an incredible deal. Now, on the phone, Vanessa finally said, some important people from Ethan's side are coming tomorrow. Nina waited. I just don't want things getting awkward. What does that mean? Vanessa exhaled sharply. Mom may have told a few people you were still figuring things out professionally. Nina's expression hardened. And there are apparently people attending who know you through business. If someone starts asking questions, it becomes this whole thing. So instead of correcting Mom, you removed me. It's my wedding, Nina. There it was. Vanessa continued. For once, Can you just let me have something without making it about you? Nina looked through the window at the estate she had spent 3 years rebuilding. I'll respect your decision. She ended the call. A knock came seconds later. Daniel entered carrying Vanessa's account file. He opened it across Nina's desk and pointed to several line items highlighted in yellow. Bridal suite upgrade, extended access, garden lighting, additional reception staffing. He tapped the margin. Each one carried the same internal notation. Owner authorization only. Nina picked up a pen. She circled every concession. Then she slid the file back to Daniel. Separate everything I personally authorized from the actual contract. Claire Morgan arrived at Anderson House, estate expecting a meeting with the general manager. Instead, a staff member led her upstairs. The moment Claire stepped into Nina's office, she stopped. Nina was seated behind the desk, where Claire had seen Daniel working during previous visits. Daniel stood beside her holding Vanessa's account file. Claire, he said, you've already spoken with our owner, Ms. Nina Anderson. Claire's face changed. Owner? Nina gestured toward the chair opposite her. Please sit. Claire didn't. Oh my God, Ms. Anderson, I had absolutely no idea, if I'd known. The wedding is not being canceled. Claire blinked. My family's decision about their guest list does not void their contract, Nina continued. Vanessa will have her wedding tomorrow. Claire finally sat down. But your call created an operational issue, Daniel said. You instructed the owner of this property that security would prevent her from entering it. I was following the family's instructions. And now we're reviewing everything connected to those instructions, Nina said. Before Claire could respond, voices drifted up from downstairs. Vanessa and Diane had arrived for rehearsal preparations with Ethan and several members of the wedding party. Claire hurried downstairs. Vanessa. Vanessa turned. What is going on? Claire lowered her voice, but not enough. Why didn't you tell me Nina Anderson owns this estate? Vanessa stared at her. Then she laughed. What? Vanessa, I'm serious. That's impossible. Daniel descended the staircase behind them with Nina. It isn't, he said. The conversations around the foyer faded. Diane looked from Daniel to Nina. You own this place. Yes. Vanessa's smile disappeared. Ethan turned toward her. You didn't know? No, because she never told us. Vanessa stepped toward Nina, her voice rising. So what happens now? You cancel everything because I uninvited you. No. Vanessa hesitated. Daniel placed the account folder on the reception desk and opened it. Nobody is canceling your wedding, Mrs. Anderson, he said. But there is something about your price you need to understand. Daniel turned the account file toward Vanessa. This is your signed package, he said. Everything guaranteed here remains exactly as contracted. Vanessa looked at Nina suspiciously. Then what are we discussing? Daniel flipped to the next page. These. His finger moved down the list. Upgraded bridal suite, extended setup hours, premium garden lighting, additional reception staff, reduced service charges. Claire leaned closer. I negotiated those. Daniel shook his head. You requested them. Nina authorized them. Claire went silent. Vanessa stared at the page. Daniel pointed to the notation beside each item. Owner authorization only. These weren't included in the base package, he explained. They were discretionary concessions approved by the owner. Vanessa slowly looked at Nina. Nina remained composed. The wedding stays exactly as contracted, she said. Anything already guaranteed stays guaranteed, but I'm withdrawing the uncommitted personal concessions. Claire opened her tablet. You can keep the remaining upgrades at standard rates, or we can remove them. Diane stepped forward. You're her sister. Don't punish her the night before her wedding. Nina turned toward her mother. Vanessa decided yesterday that being her sister wasn't enough for me to attend. That's different. How? Diane had no answer. Ethan had been standing beside Vanessa in silence. Finally, he asked, why was Nina uninvited? Vanessa's shoulders tightened. Ethan, not now. No, now. Diane tried to interrupt. It was a family decision. About what? Nobody answered. Nina didn't rescue them. Ethan looked at Vanessa. You told me Nina couldn't come because there was tension between you two. Vanessa glanced toward the wedding party members lingering nearby. Claire quietly handed Ethan the original account sheet. Wait, he said. What would this wedding have cost without these concessions? Claire pulled up the standard pricing. Vanessa immediately stepped closer. Claire, you don't need to. But Claire had already begun explaining the difference. The unusually favorable package hadn't been her brilliant negotiation. It had been Nina. Vanessa cut her off mid-sentence and turned toward her sister. Wait, you're telling me you were the reason we could afford this place? Yes, Nina said. Nobody in the foyer spoke. Vanessa looked down at the account sheets as though the numbers might rearrange themselves. Nina finally explained what her family had never bothered to ask. 3 years earlier, she had purchased the struggling historic estate through Anderson House Hospitality. She financed its restoration, rebuilt its events operation, and turned Anderson House into one of the area's most sought-after wedding and corporate venues. Her name wasn't splashed across the advertising because she had never wanted it to be. I wanted the property judged by its service, Nina said, not by who owned it. Vanessa swallowed. Then why didn't you tell me when I booked it? Because you loved the venue before you knew it belonged to me. Nina glanced at the account. And when you said you couldn't afford the package you wanted, I helped. Vanessa's eyes remained fixed on the pages. Why? Nina looked directly at her. Because helping you wasn't supposed to buy me a place at your wedding. I thought being your sister already gave me one. Diane stepped forward. Nina, this has become a huge misunderstanding. No. Nina's answer was quiet. Claire told me exactly what happened. Vanessa approved it, you approved it, Dad approved it. Robert, who had arrived during the account discussion, lowered his eyes. Finally, he said, we thought you'd accept it. Nina turned toward him. Robert shifted uncomfortably. You've always been the one who keeps the peace. For the first time, Nina almost smiled. You mistook me staying calm for permission. No one answered. Nina then turned to Daniel. Proceed with the contract. Vanessa looked up quickly. You're still letting us have the wedding. It was never mine to take away, because my feelings were hurt. The contractual ceremony and reception remained untouched. Vanessa and Ethan reviewed the optional upgrades together, kept the ones they were willing to pay standard rates for, and removed the rest. Claire approached Nina afterward. I owe you an apology, she said. Not because you own this place, because of how I spoke to you before I knew. Nina nodded. That's the part worth remembering. Ethan then asked Nina to attend the wedding. We'll put you back on the guest list. Nina shook her head. Vanessa stared at her. You're seriously not coming. You decided I wasn't wanted when you thought I had nothing you needed. I'm not coming now because you discovered otherwise. The next morning, Anderson House Estate opened exactly on schedule. The flowers arrived, the chairs were arranged, the ceremony proceeded. No gates were locked, no guests were removed, no revenge interrupted Vanessa's wedding. Nina checked operations with Daniel that morning, then left before the guests arrived. Later, relatives learned why the bride's own sister had been absent and why several expensive extras had suddenly disappeared. This time, Nina didn't correct anyone or protect her family from the embarrassment. She simply stopped fixing things for them. Diane and Robert discovered that calls asking Nina to quietly cover expenses no longer produced automatic solutions. Vanessa apologized later, but Nina refused to restore their relationship based on words alone. If Vanessa wanted closeness again, she would have to demonstrate respect when there was nothing to gain from it. Claire changed her own procedures as well. Unusual restrictions involving venue ownership or executives would be escalated instead of handled through assumptions and family pressure. Months later, Nina returned to Anderson House for another event. She entered through the front doors, instead of slipping upstairs through the staff entrance. Daniel spotted her immediately. "Good evening, Ms. Anderson." Several employees turned and greeted their owner. Nina smiled and continued into the ballroom without shrinking herself for anyone. Vanessa had kept her wedding. Nina had kept something more important: her dignity, her business, and the right to stop rewarding people who only respected her after discovering what she owned. They had uninvited Nina because they thought she didn't belong in the room, only to discover the room belonged to her.